Gopal Chakravarti, yeah, Gopal Chakravarti offended Haridas Thakur. Okay, right, yeah, I got it. Gopal Chakravarti offended Haridas Thakur, saying that when Haridas Thakur told that the liberation that is not achieved even by millions of lifetimes of Brahman realization, then Gopal Chakravarti contested that. He said that if what you are saying is true, then I'll cut off my nose. And if what you are saying is untrue, then I'll cut off your nose. I mean, it's a kind of an expression. And due to that offense, Gopal Chakravarti developed leprosy and his nose fell off. He didn't have to cut his nose off with a knife. Leprosy cut it off from on his behalf. Yes. Give him that.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a great class. How many questions can I ask? I have 3 right now, but...
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I have 3 questions. First one is, when exalted devotees are feeling this kind of lamentation that they're like a worm in the stool, are they experiencing bliss or is it more like depression?
Good point. The point is, he literally sees himself in that way. It is not that due to his humble disposition he is expressing that kind of an attitude. The answer to that is, you see, the closer you come to Krishna, the more you recognize Krishna's greatness and your minuteness. Isn't it? So that is the thing. The closer you go to Krishna, you become aware of your minuteness, and as a result of that, you feel that way. And you can say, yeah, it is due to his ecstasy, because he is actually going close to Krishna, he is becoming more and more ecstatic. There is no room for depression in Krishna consciousness.
So the overall sentiment is Ananda.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. My second question is, are the stages of Nama Pral or Nama Bhas or Shodnam, are they transient or are they permanent? Like, can you switch between the two depending on the day kind of thing, or once you're in stage, then you're in that stage and you've made that progress?
If you rectify them, they're temporary. But if you don't rectify them, they're permanent.
And the third question I have was, what can be done to practically realize the non-difference between Krishna and the holy name? I mean, we have identified that the cause of being in Namabhas is ignorance. So theoretically, there is the understanding that they're non-different. So I guess the ignorance is not completely, I mean, we're not completely ignorant, but there's still that realization is missing. So what can we do?
The point is, you see, you can say mercy of the holy name. The full mercy is not manifesting because of ignorance and anartha. You are not able to receive the full mercy of the holy name because of your ignorance and your anartha. The sun is there in the sky, is the cloud that is covering your vision. Is the sun covered or your vision is covered? So similarly, these anarthas and ignorance are causing the covering, our perception, our vision, our understanding of the holy name.
What exactly is this ignorance? Is it just the knowledge aspect? Because if you're telling us the
knowledge aspect in the sense not really knowing what the holy name is and who Krishna is.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Yes, there is a matter there.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. You mentioned that spiritual master removes the ignorance and anarthas. What's our part, our effort in that process of removing the anarthas?
Our part in the sense?
That what do we do like conscious effort, knowing what are the specific anarthas to remove them, or what?
As I just mentioned, the way to become free is to get the guidance from a bona fide spiritual master. The bona fide spiritual master will remove the ignorance by giving us the transcendental knowledge and free us from unnecessary material attachment. So these are the two things that are causing the holy name not to become manifest.
So by following the instructions, whatever it's there, it's been by the mercy, by the guidance of the spiritual master, the anarthas are removed, and by following these instructions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Nilamani Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, you were mentioning that the mantra is not really dependent on Diksha per se. Just trying to understand that a little bit more. So, if you don't take the Diksha and you keep chanting, what happens, or to what extent can the mantra really have effect without taking that formal Diksha step?
You see, when access to a bona fide spiritual master is there, and still if one doesn't want to take advantage of that, will he be able to receive Krishna's mercy? We have to look at it from that way. If the spiritual master is not available and he gets the holy name, keeps chanting, then that is one thing. But if the possibility of receiving the mercy of an advanced Vaishnava is available, but if one doesn't want to take advantage of that, what does it mean? Doesn't it mean that he doesn't have proper faith, which is the very foundation of Krishna consciousness? And the other consideration is that doesn't it indicate that he is so arrogant, so puffed up, that he doesn't want to surrender to anybody? But that's what I was saying, that the surrender aspect is necessary, or is because of the surrender aspect this initiation is necessary. Krishna wants us to surrender to him. And the way to surrender to him is by surrendering to his representative. Now, how do we recognize the representative? That's a consideration. The way to recognize the representative of Krishna is by seeing how attached he is to Krishna. His attachment to Krishna will actually show his eligibility.
So when some people say that we've been chanting but we're not ready to take initiation, how can we help them or guide them, or what do we kind of then say that? Because we can't really say that, hey, chanting is not going to be effective unless you take Diksha. But at the same time, we know that chanting is at some point going to bring them to the point where they're ready to actually surrender and...
Yeah, I mean, for initiation, one has to be qualified. On his part, he has to be qualified. And at the same time, he should have the urge also to take advantage of this opportunity. And as I said, it's not only just diksha, it's the matter of surrender. So that surrender may not take place with the formal jagga and this and that, but if one is surrendered to a bona fide devotee, bona fide spiritual master, then that is also the necessary qualification. But in an institution like ours, these formalities are necessary also. Otherwise, you see, if that rules and regulations are not there, then the structure will not be there.
And Maharaj, when you said, if a spiritual master is available, just trying, even in Prabhupada's days, Prabhupada was always available and so many people took initiation even by mail. So it was just a question of faith, right? So
No, Prabhupada didn't give initiation by mail. He gave it through his representatives.
Okay.
It is the temple president gave the initiation. Prabhupada sent the beads and things. He never gave initiation by mail as such, or over the phone as such.
I was just trying to say that spiritual master is, at least in an institution like ours, pretty much available, right? Especially in the current day.
Pretty much of a?
Available, to anyone who's serious.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Amal, Harinaam, Prabhu.
You kind of answered it as you continued, but just in my thoughts, sharing that in his question, there's the factor that we also can't decide who has received mercy or not by the outwards view of whether or not they've taken diksha, initiation. There's many examples within our movement and also probably outside of our ISKCON movement of people who are undoubtedly receiving the mercy of Krishna through his holy name and who haven't yet taken diksha. But you answer that by saying they have surrendered. There are devotees in our movement who undoubtedly chant with a very deep realization and level, but haven't taken the formal yajna initiation. My understanding is that, yes, the holy name has no rules. You can't decide when Krishna decides to give his mercy, but that diksha is there to help purify us. We have to surrender so that, like you said, Krishna sees us surrendering to his bona fide representative, and then he is very, happy to give.
And you see, in ISKCON, we have an opportunity to be surrendered to Srila Prabhupada. And one very clear example of that is the initiating guru may have left the movement. But if the disciple remained in ISKCON under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, he is making spiritual advancement. Not only his spiritual life is secure, but he is obviously making spiritual advancement. So this is Prabhupada's causeless mercy, the way he structured ISKCON. Through this structure, his mercy is flowing. Just remain in ISKCON and you'll be receiving Srila Prabhupada's mercy.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Vrindavan Chandra.
Guru Maharaj, thank you very much. Can you comment on this Sampradaya Vihine Mantrastu Nisphalamata?
Sampradaya?
Vihine Mantrastu Nisphalamata.
Sampradaya Vihina Ye Mantraste Nishphalamata. See, again, the mantra should come through a chain of disciplic succession. The mantras as I mentioned earlier, mantras were kept as a secret. The only way one could get the mantra is by Diksha. Through Diksha, the Guru gives the mantra to the disciple. And in course of time, the disciple becoming a Guru gives the mantra to his disciple. That disciple in due course of time becoming a Guru gives the mantra to his disciple. So this is how the mantra which is otherwise secret is flowing. So unless and until one became tuned in or lined up into a parampara, he couldn't get the mantra.
Our Hare Krishna mantra is open to everybody.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, therefore, anybody can chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
But if he has not taken proper initiation, then is it become fruitless or it is still has some results or fruits?
Yeah, as Mahaprabhu himself said that there is no need for. But the thing is to secure our spiritual life, and as I mentioned, to not for the mantra, but in order to surrender, one has to approach a Guru. It is not only just a matter of parampara, and then by receiving the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he is tuned into parampara. He is coming in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's parampara because he gave it. Right? So he is coming into the parampara. Mahaprabhu's parampara, Gauriya Vaishnava parampara. But at the same time, in order to organize a movement that is meant to spread all over the world, an institution like ISKCON is essential. Because without the institution, this systematic propagation and maintenance is not going to happen. Like as we see in Gaudiya Math, they are there. They have their Math and they have their activities, they are preaching. But that massive movement that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted is not happening. Any other question? Okay.
Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance. My question is, he who described the spiritual injunction and act according to his own whims, how he can attain this perfection by the holy names?
Well, if you want to act independently, whimsically, then you start your own sampradaya. Right? Spiritual organization is very systematic and very structured.
Some Prabhupada disciples said, I said, if you chant holy name, then you can purify yourself and you can attain the supreme perfection. He said that many people say that it doesn't work.
Many people what?
Many people say they are chanting holy name but doesn't work.
Well, these are, let's not get into all these hair-splitting considerations. Prabhupada wanted us to progress in spiritual life in certain ways, so let's do that.
I told them, who told you, and you have to tell them that you have to follow these four
Like the
principles.
thing is, sometimes some people go to some remote place, even go to Radhakund and stay there. Maybe they will make some spiritual advancement, but in ISKCON we have a certain understanding and certain standard, and we have to maintain that, because that's what Srila Prabhupada wanted. As I was mentioning the other day, that Prabhupada wanted us to remain in ISKCON. He wanted us not ever to leave ISKCON. And because Maya is very strong, If we go away from the association of devotees, we won't be able to withstand the onslaught of Maya. That's why in order to protect our own spiritual life, we have to stay in the association of devotees.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Somebody has a question to say?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful lecture. My question is, when you were talking about the three classes of devotees, Kanishta, Madhyama and Uttamadhikaris, you spoke about Vaishnava Prad. So, in our day-to-day life, we have a lot of disagreements with our peer devotees, more importantly between a husband and wife. So, and we have fights, big, small. So, does that also come under Vaishnava Prad? And if yes, how should we handle it?
Well, Prabhupada said that in intimate relationship, there is no offense. Take the mic.
How about peers, our devotees as our same level?
That's also, we all belong in the same family. We fight here and there. Prabhupada himself said that brothers fight. Then after they become friends again. So when there is intimacy, intimate relationship, these aparadhs things are not really that important. A classic example in that respect is the child on the lap of the mother is kicking the mother in the chest. Does the mother take any offense? So that is how intimate relationship is. There is no because of that intimacy, because of that loving relationship, there is no consideration of offense. Yes, Wendy?
So I want to go back to my question from earlier today about chanting with more focus, because I just feel like
Chanting?
with more focus. You had mentioned that when we're chanting that we should listen and hear. So afterwards this afternoon I was practicing that and really trying to focus on hearing. And then I realized I was looking around and just was taking in all these sights and distractions and, should we chant with our eyes closed? I mean, how do we really, I just really want to learn how to focus. That's really, especially with chanting, I really want to just get better at chanting and be more focused and heart-centered and really feel that connection while I'm chanting. And any other suggestions?
Well, Prabhupada gave a very simple instruction in that respect, is that hear when you're chanting. What is important is that, there is no room for our mental and emotional consideration in that. It's a matter of Krishna manifesting himself. You get the point? The ultimate consideration is Krishna manifesting himself. It's not up to us. So all we can do is just wait for Krishna to manifest himself. And with all sincerity we receive the holy name. And how do we receive the holy name? Is through chanting and hearing. Does it answer your question? Yeah, right. Keep on practicing. Yeah, Rupanuga at the back.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, you mentioned that education or qualification leads to arrogance, and
not with you.
But we also hear that vidya dadati vinayam,
Yeah, very good.
Education leads to humility.
Very
and
good.
Then we hear Vidya Vinay Sampanne, that humble sage. So could you please clarify what type of education it is? One leads to arrogance.
That is what real education should do. The real education should make one humble. But nowadays things are not working in proper order. That's the problem. People are, this education is making them arrogant. Because to begin with, this is not proper education. This is ignorance actually, avidya. Jaro vidya sab mayar boibhav, Bhakti Thakur said. The materialistic education is simply an influence of Maya, display of Maya's opulence. Bewildering the living entities, she is simply making asses out of them. Give it to her.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I wanted to understand, we know that soul has eternal identity. But once they, after liberation, if a soul merges to Brahmajyoti, do they lose the identity? Is there a, so if that's true Maharaj, then how come soul has eternal identity, and is there
How come?
So if soul merges into Brahmajyoti and they lose their identity, then how do we understand the first part that soul has eternal identity?
Yeah, well, just like soul has its eternal identity, but now, for example, do you have your eternal identity? Yourself?
Not sure Maharaj what to say.
No, you lost your identity. You're identifying yourself with the body, not with the soul. Right? Now, when you fall asleep, are you aware of your identity? So similarly, when one enters into Brahmajyoti, he loses his spiritual identity, which is a servant of Krishna. You get the point? That is the meaning of the loss of identity. My identity is that I am a servant of Krishna. When that identity is lost, my identity is lost.
Thank you Maharaj. So that means once, even after merging, there is a possibility of falling back and coming to this world. Thank you Maharaj.
Even after merging, they fall down. The sooner they fall is better for them. Yes, Sachin? And then Jadunath.
Maharaj, this may be a little bit of an esoteric question, but feel free not to answer. The bhava stage, what are the symptoms of someone who's in the bhava stage and one who has achieved that? Are they in Shuddhanam, Namabhas, or the border?
Almost Suttanam. Because Baba stage is just before prem, feeling the transcendental emotions for Krishna. But love fully didn't develop.
One more question, thank you. The 5 principal rasas that are fixed that you talked about, Santa and Dasya, do they exist in Goloka Vrindavan?
Yes and no. Like say for example, the land, the trees, they're supposed to be in Santara. But then again, the trees are not really in Shantaras. They are not, because they are also, Braja means moving. Braj, nahi brajati jatrapi samaya. Braja means movement. There everything is moving. transcendentally. Like the river Jamuna is a river, but when Krishna jumps into Jamuna, the waves rush to Krishna to embrace him. The land is supposed to be inert. But as Krishna steps, the land begins to sway in ecstasy. So that's Vrindavan. I mean, from here all we can do is just get some idea from reading books, but the real experience will come when you go there. So in a way, apparently whatever is Shanta is in one of those dynamic relationships. Dasya, of course, is there. Krishna has his servants, Raktak, Patrak. They are Krishna's servants. They are in servitorship. So in Vrindavan, these four mellows are there. Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. But the prominent ones are Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. Yes, Jadina?
Guru Maharaj, what does it mean? What does it mean exactly? What does it mean exactly that we are not to consider the spiritual master as an ordinary person? Are they not human beings? Are they not capable of making mistakes or exploitation? Or what does it mean?
Meaning, you see, there are two ways of looking at things. Looking at it from the material perspective and looking at it from the spiritual perspective. So the idea here is don't look at the spiritual master from the material perspective. Look at him from spiritual perspective. Don't see him as an ordinary person, but see him as a representative of Krishna. Can a representative of Krishna be ordinary? Although I would intend to say that in my case you can think that. But what to do, the scripture is saying otherwise. So the thing is, the spiritual master's responsibility is to give you Krishna, give you proper understanding of Krishna, and transmit the mercy of his spiritual master to you. And he tries his best to do that. The point is, that is a real spiritual master. The one who Jai Krishna Tattvetta Shei Guru Hai. The one who knows Krishna and one who is capable of giving Krishna.
So would it be fair to say that it's okay to look at the spiritual master from a material point of view while one is trying to choose a spiritual master, and at the point at which...
Trying to what?
Choose a spiritual master.
Choose, okay.
And then there's a point at which one...
Yeah, Prabhupada said in that respect that before taking initiation, you can check the spiritual master in every possible way. But once you have taken initiation, then you have to surrender to him. Before you make the choice, then you can check him out. But not after you have accepted him.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. You are no ordinary person.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have a question. I'm just trying to understand when you said, as long as we are unaware of who Krishna is and what our relationship with him is, our chanting will be continue to be Namabhas stage. And that's why we require the spiritual master, because he tells us who Krishna is and what our relationship with Krishna is. That sounds to be more like the Swarup knowledge of one's Swarup. And in ISKCON, like Prabhupada never emphasized much on what one's individual Swarup and mode of service is. So
not necessarily. We don't really have to go to that, because that Swarup ultimately will be revealed. As you make advancement in your spiritual life, then the Swarup will be revealed in course of time. And in that respect, I remember one incident. One of our godbrothers in Bengal, in Calcutta, he came to see Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur. And I was there. And he at one point asked Srila Prabhupada what was his Swarup, Siddha Swarup, meaning spiritual identity. Prabhupada became very upset with him. He kept on chastising him. Then finally Prabhupada told him, don't worry about your Swarup. When you become qualified, I will come and reveal your Swarup. So that shows that the spiritual master is not going to work on the disciple only as long as he is on this planet. Even when he is not in this planet, he can come and help us to reveal our Swarup. Right? It is not that the spiritual master, while instructing, has to give his Swarup, as the Sahajiyas do sometimes. So Gopal has a... And okay, next I'll take yours. Yeah, Gopal? Gopal Hari? No, okay, who had... Yeah, okay, that's... Yeah, Sabasati.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for the seminar. You had spoken the other day, Guru Maharaj, about how it begins from chanting, that's personal deliverance. And then you mentioned that to then share it is also very important. My question is, how does that aspect of preaching help improve one's personal chanting? And then the other part is that also some devotees have done lots of preaching which has shown lots of fruit, but may have been later on also in difficulty. So how to work the two, personal development by your own japa and maybe gaining some mercy from preaching if there is such.
The main point is that we have to remain fixed up in our spiritual life. We have to be fixed up in our spiritual life. Like while preaching, yes, preaching helps in recognizing our identity, because while we are preaching, we are teaching ourselves also. So it is not that while we are preaching, we are only giving the knowledge to them. While we are preaching, knowledge is also being revealed within our hearts. So this is how preaching always helps. And then again, while preaching, we have to also be honest with ourselves. Not just give big lectures and those instructions are not followed. We are instructing others, but we are not following ourselves. That is hypocrisy. And that is the reason why one falls down. If one is serious about his spiritual life, he'll never fall down. Only when we lose our seriousness, then only we tend to become victims of Maya. Give it to her. No, there's no last one. I mean, we still have good 10 minutes.
I'm reluctant to ask another question about spiritual identity, but would you say, or I would like some clarification, is spiritual identity eternal, meaning it is recovered as we become purified, or is it something that is assigned, like you say, the spiritual master reveals? Are we, in other words, do we start off as just generic parts and parcels of Krishna, or is our specific relationship eternal from always?
Yeah. Generally, our spiritual identity is eternal. And in our conditioned state, we are actually identifying ourselves with the body. Therefore, the spiritual identity is completely covered. And in a way, because we have given up our spiritual activities, our spiritual form is lost. And that's why it has become a spiritual spark. But as we become engaged in devotional service, due to the service, our spiritual form begins to manifest. And in the ultimate stage, the whole spiritual identity becomes manifest. So it is said that the identity is eternal. But if Krishna wants, he can change it. But it's not up to us to change it. And what to speak of change it? We don't even know what it is. So where is the consideration of changing it?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, any other question? Do you have a question? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I was thinking when you were describing about three phases in chanting, the offense and clearing and pure. The 10th offense to the holy name, to not able to give up material attachments even after understanding many instructions. So does this come under clearing stage or in offense?
No, it's a 10th offense. It's offense. It's offense. It's not clearing. So we need to, in order to come to the clearing stage, we have to get rid of the offenses.
Yeah, so the avidya, the ignorance, and anartha, as you mentioned. So those two have to go in order to get to the next stage, that is pure. So in that case, how to understand that anartha, the 10th offense to the holy name, is not situated in the clearing stage.
You see, anartha is not just material attachments. Anarthas are the unnecessary materialistic involvement. So not to maintain material attachments. So that means you have covered this 10th offense, right? But still, the anarthas may remain. Like, there are different types of anarthas, not only material attachments. False ego is a kind of anartha, right? So material attachments may have been gone, but ashmita, that the tendency of me and mine, this attitude, that is an anartha. Avidya is an anartha, ignorance of the spiritual identity. So those anarthas will go only when we become completely pure. Until that complete pure stage, the anarthas will continue. That's what is pointed out in Nama Bhash.
Thank you.
Okay. You have another question, Mataji?
On the subject of anarthas, I need a refresher. I'm just looking up a quote here by Prabhupada. if one is not particularly careful, even by watering the plant of devotional service through chanting, unnecessary weeds will grow and hamper progress. I'm not very remembering very well how that works and what that means. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. You see, when we are chanting, the hearing and chanting is meant to nourish our spiritual kripa, right? But if there are weeds, and these weeds are different types of anarthas. Like one kind of weed is becoming proud, thinking, you see, like one of the later ones are actually Taranga Rangini. Taranga Rangini means riding in the waves of spiritual success. Due to our spiritual advancement, we get glorified, right? And if one tends to kind of ride on the waves of this success, that is like, see, although spiritual advancement is taking place, but that is turning into anarthas. So that is why, like the way to do it, way to avoid that is constant hearing and chanting. That is, there is no room for, see, Maya is one side, meaning material prosperity, material allurements. Like while we are making spiritual advancement, the possibility, the material allurements are also coming along with that. And they are those allurements are extremely dangerous. Therefore, the safest way is to remain in the proper association and to be constantly involved in hearing and chanting. And in this way, Prabhupada is giving the example, the paddy, rice, paddy, grows when, as the water rises, the plant grows above the water. Whereas the weeds, when they're covered by water, they die. So this watering process is hearing and chanting. So if we keep the water level high with hearing and chanting, then our devotional kripa will grow and the anarthas will wither. Thank you.
What is that phrase you said again that describes the anarthas growing? If we can translate or...
One thing is riding in the wave of spiritual success. In Sanskrit, Taranga Rangini. Taranga Rangini. Taranga means wave and Rangini means enjoying. Okay, was there any other question? Oh yeah, okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the seminar. My question is, Prabhupada said that everything that we need is in his books. And at the same time, ISKCON is sometimes or often criticized for not like allowing devotees to read more advanced books or like get more advanced association. At the same time, you mentioned some of the Bhaktivinoda Thakur's books like Javadharma, and there are others as well. So do you actually recommend, advanced reading, or can you comment on that, please?
Well, you see, Prabhupada was careful at that time because most of the devotees were very young. And most of the devotees were coming from the West. And Prabhupada also saw that how they are vulnerable, to be misled. And the main consideration is, when Prabhupada is giving us the books after so much endeavor and struggle, for our benefit was the need for going out. But as the devotees will make advancement, as the ISKCON movement is growing, reading more advanced books become, natural impetus. But for myself, I can tell you, I find Prabhupada's books are sufficient. I read other books only when I give seminars. And this is how, I know that craving is there, they need to hear more. So but the thing is, most of the time also I try to stick to Prabhupada's books and giving seminars. Like another aspect of the seminar is Krishna's pastimes out of Vrindavan. And that is there in 10th canto. 10th canto 49 to 90 is Krishna's pastimes out of Vrindavan. Often devotees don't even read them. So that's why, I have to tell them in the story form. This one I gave on Harinaam Chintamani because I was told to speak on Harinaam, like promote Harinaam, and that's what Janmashtami Prabhu is a program he started and he requested me. And I thought that best is to give that seminar then based on a specific book, and that's why I selected the Harinaam Chintamani. Yes, Mother Malati?
So regarding the comment, any comment? So regarding the need, or supposed need, to read more advanced literature, I would suggest first become advanced, become personally advanced.
Yes, right.
And I didn't quite understand your point about, well, back at that time we weren't so advanced. Of course we accept that, and probably we're still not advanced, anybody here in the room included. But what did having coming from the West have to do with it? You mentioned that. You said we weren't so advanced
because the devotees were not used to the Indian ways and Vedic culture. Like you have seen, like how devotees got misled. Prabhupada with all faith sent them to some of his godbrothers, and they were bewildered.
Well, I would say the same is still prevalent, except now Maya is so lovely. She is, there's no borders, and I see that degradation is an equal service, opportunity for anyone, and people from India are just as degraded as people
like,
from the West.
Say, I as an Indian, when I come to America, the culture here is foreign.
I mean,
I get, whereas for an American to be adopted in this culture is a lot easier than me being adopted in this culture.
Anyway, somehow nowadays India has caught up with the degraded Western culture. I mean, you just go to any one of the major cities and you have to be blind to see
after all, you see, the reality is that the devotees in those days, they were not used to so acquainted and used to the Indian culture, Vedic culture. And that's why Prabhupada was giving the books himself. And in the language that they could understand and they could adapt. Prabhupada did not promote, like any other literatures. He himself translated and gave it to them. So there was no need to read all.
Not them, us.
But today the devotees are translating books.
Yes.
They're in English. Those days, besides Prabhupada's books, there was nothing available in English in proper way. But now that English books are coming out, the devotees are having access to them and they're reading.
So one good step to follow is that one of my very advanced godbrothers, your godbrother, made a point that for 16 years he thoroughly studied through the Prabhupada's books before he picked up another book. So therefore he had a very strong spiritual foundation with which to understand other topics that may arise in other books. So instead of going first to the other bookshelf, first carefully study Prabhupada's books.
So that's the point I was making. Prabhupada has given, so first you become acquainted with what Prabhupada is giving, and then if you are qualified, yes, you can delve into other books.
And then another, just some people get worried about Prabhupada's disciples and also grand disciples writing books, but actually Prabhupada wanted that.
Yeah.
When we went to the Yoga Pith on our first initial visit with Srila Prabhupada, he looked at their bookshelf and there was very meager books and only by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So then he noted that his godbrothers weren't writing.
Yeah.
And he made that was one of the first times he indicated that he wanted us to write. So that the devotees who are writing are, through their writing, are further glorifying Srila Prabhupada, hopefully.
Yeah. That's the thing, we have to get acquainted with Srila Prabhupada's presentation. Because he knew how we will need it, and he gave it accordingly. And then once we have been adapted to that means when we have considerably matured, then yes, one can venture to reading other books. And by reading other books, they can give their realizations. So, and that is how things will progress. Like to say only Prabhupada's books and no other books. Prabhupada's books will always remain the basis. And all the other books should be there just to kind of explain and simplify Prabhupada's presentation, or relishable presentation. Like the books are coming out, and devotees are reading them, they are enjoying it. This will be a wrong thing to, but at the same time, if somebody introduces something wrong, that shouldn't be tolerated. Like the right thing should be appreciated and wrong thing should be rejected. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.